chief of Politicus USA. She has been featured on many national radio, television, and print outlets, including CNN and MSNBC. The website for Politicus USA is politicususa.com. That's POLITICUS USA.com. And their Twitter handle is Politicus-USA. No, just Politicus USA. Sarah's handle at Politicus is Sarah, Politicus Sarah. Sarah, thanks for joining us today. Let's first talk about Joe Manchin in the filibuster. About a week ago, Senator Manchin mentioned that he would allow the filibuster against the We the People Act to continue. He would not vote to break the filibuster on that important political reform legislation. And then he proposed his own version of the We the People Act. And not surprisingly, Mitch McConnell announced that the Republicans would filibuster the Manchin Compromise. This leaves Joe Manchin in an awkward position. He's also always talking about the need to work on a bipartisan basis. And that's why he wants to preserve the filibuster. But then when he attempts to do something bipartisan and propose his own version of the We the People Act, Mitch McConnell just basically says, no, I'm going to filibuster that. Do you think at some point Joe Manchin will realize that his hopes for bipartisanship with people like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell are just pointless dreams, and he'll move to the reality that to get this country moving again, we're going to have to get rid of the filibuster? Or is that just a pipe dream?
I'm hoping that, I don't see him getting rid of the filibuster, but I'm hoping he will finally see that they need to do a filibuster carve-out on the Voting Rights Act, and I think that he's in a really bad position. I'm not defending what he's doing, because if we don't get, some voting rights passed, I'm very concerned about where the country's going. But, he's in a really bad situation. He is the only statewide elected Democrat in West Virginia, which is on the short list of the most Republican state in the country. But I do like what we see with Chuck Schumer. He's trying to show Manchin by using a playbook from Harry Reid, staging a bunch of votes on popular legislation that Republicans are blocking to show these Democratic holdouts that Republicans aren't going to work with them. Or you could even say to show the Democratic holdouts base back at home what they're up against. Now, does that mean he moves? I don't know. I mean, none of us know. I'm very concerned that he doesn't understand what's at stake, but I know that he does care a lot about voting rights. And so that's the big hope that is, undermining all of that. And I want to go back to the Lindsey Graham quote just for a second, because he said that he would not be extorted. I would like him to explain then his behavior for the 4 years under Donald Trump, because it looked to me like he had been extorted by someone, like Donald Trump. He has not behaved in a logical or nothing could make sense of the way he did this kind of pivot and then just started becoming a Trump puppet, if you will.
Yeah, he was. It seemed to me Lindsey Graham during the 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency went, way along with Trump, all his crazy ideas. He seemed to be a toady for Trump.
Right.
And, he just doesn't see, I remember, I'm old enough to remember a day, which is long ago, when John McCain was in the Senate. He and John McCain were part of an effort to open up the Republican Party. But I think when John McCain died, he took Lindsey Graham's spine with him because he was a toady for Trump for 4 years, and now he's bent on breaking any attempt Democrats to reform the nation. So a commentary on Lindsey Graham because, back in the day when John McCain was still around, Graham was McCain's buddy and tried to, fight for reform, but those days are long past.
I remember that as well. Yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go to break now, but we come back from our break. We'll have more of Sarah Jones, who is the editor-in-chief of Politicus USA. We're discussing the week's political news. We'll be back after these messages with more with Brad Bannon. Our guest in this half hour to discuss the political news of the week is Sarah Jones, who is editor-in-chief of Politicus USA. Let's try this, Sarah. About 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump began his I'm Still the President tour in North Carolina, where he spent most of his speech to a group of Tar Heel Republicans claiming that he was still president and he was cheated out of the White House. I fear we're in for another round of that. He is appearing this Saturday in Lorain, Ohio, and I'm sure he's going to complain more about being cheated out of the presidency. Many Republicans like Lindsey Graham are in lockstep with Donald Trump. If you look at the national polls, rank-and-file Republicans love Donald Trump. But I'm of the mind that as much as I hate to see Donald Trump, he's very unpopular. And I think his I'm Still the President tour does the Republicans more harm than good because he is very unpopular. It seems to me that as long as he's around in such a prominent role, it stops the Republicans from taking a hard look at themselves and what they can do to become more popular. What's your take on Donald Trump?
Well, I have to agree with everything you said. First of all, I think what he's doing is really dangerous, and it's outrageous that his party is allowing this. Usually a new president gets many, many years without the former president being in the news and making commentary even on what's going on in politics. So, but that's not the only reason it's dangerous. We saw on January 6th why what he's doing is dangerous, and he's still selling the big lie. But I agree with you 100%. Republic that Trump's return is good for them. It feels good to them. But as 2020 demonstrated, nobody gets out the Democratic vote like Donald Trump. So one could argue that the best election strategy for Republicans to take back the House and Senate in 2022 would be to make a local race-by-race approach. But Trump's presence is going to allow Democrats to nationalize the election, turn it into a referendum on Donald Trump, and equate support for any Republican candidate as support for the twice impeached Capitol attack inciting failed one-term president.
Yeah, Donald Trump is a bad habit that Republicans just don't want to break. I mean, it's like giving up cigarettes, I think. I mean, a lot of people think it's a good idea, but can't bring themselves to break the habit. And a lot of others don't even think about breaking the cigarette habit because they don't think about it. But, it's interesting. His first trip was to North Carolina, where there'll be a hot Senate race in 2022. There's also going to be an open Senate race in Ohio. And I think many Republicans feel that Trump can galvanize the Republican base, which might help them in a turnout election. But I can't help but thinking they're doing themselves more harm than good. We're going to take a break now. We'll be back with more of Deadline D.C. after this message. With Brad Bannon. We're welcoming back our radio audience. And by the way, if you're a part of our radio audience and you'd like to see us as well as hear us, which many people do, imagine people enjoying to watch me. You might actually, some people probably glad just have to listen to me. But anyway, if you would like to watch me as well as listen to me and our great guests like Sarah Jones from Politicus USA, you can watch us on Periscope TV at www.periscope.tv/Brad Bannon. You can watch us on Facebook Live at tinyurl.com/BB Facebook Live, and you can also see us on YouTube at tinyurl.com/Brad on YouTube. Anyway, we're back in with our guest in this half hour, Sarah Jones, who's the editor-in-chief of Politicus USA. Sarah's Twitter handle is Politicus Sarah, POLITICUS SARAH. If you'd like to read more of the good stuff she writes or have a conversation with her. Let's move on here. I want to go back to a discussion we had at the beginning of this segment. It seems to me you could look at the Democrats have proposed two groundbreaking pieces of legislation. The For the People Act, which would, be a significant improvement in our political culture, and our political behavior. It would end Citizens United. It would reduce voting restrictions many states are now imposing on voters of color. We also have Joe Biden's American Jobs Act, which would bring the United States kicking and screaming economically into the 21st century, and also fighting climate change. And the reality is Joe Biden is caught between a rock and a hard place. He is, and basically because of the filibuster rule, which, honestly, it doesn't seem that there's much chance that the filibuster is going to end. Does that mean we're going to end up, if we end up with any legislation at all, we're going to end up with watered down political reform and watered down economic reform? Or can we do better than that, Sarah?
That's a great question. I think I share the hopes with many that Democrats will be able to act boldly on this. The problem, obviously, is that they've got several Democrats who are not on board, and I think we're seeing that with the infrastructure package. That now that it's being broken down, Democrats have to keep all 50 members on board for everything, and then they break these two packages down, and then some Democrats are concerned that the cinema Manchin types are going to only support one package and not the other. So that puts the infrastructure bill at risk. I do think that it's going to happen. I don't think it'll be this smaller so-called bipartisan plan, because even that plan, the senators who negotiated it have no agreement on how it will be paid for. And Republicans want to raise a gas tax and user fees, and the White House has already shot down that idea. The infrastructure bill, I think, will happen, but I think it's going to be the least likely of the three possibilities that smaller bipartisan compromise will pass due to the pay-for issues. So I'm hoping that we do see movement on some of these things. It would do wonderful things for the country. You can see the analysis that has been done by financial people, which is not even looking at what liberals want for this country, which is for people to have safety nets and for we'd have to fix some of this inequity that's been so long baked into the whole system. But it also makes sense just from a financial point of view. So to see Republicans, of course, blocking all of this, not supporting legislation that's very popular, the infrastructure package, 68% of Americans support that. You don't see Republicans getting on board because they simply refuse to do anything that would help the country if it also helps Democrats. And that's
Yeah,
how
well, I
they
hope
see
you're
that.
right. I mean, I'm editorializing here, but it seems to me that the For the People Act and the American Jobs Act offer the hope of the kind of fundamental political reform this country needs. We need to open up the political process. We need to eliminate the power of big corporate money. And on the Americans Job Act, it offers hope to retooling their economy to make it a modern economy. It offers hope that we're going of fundamentally changing the tax structure to help middle class Americans and reverse the corporate tax cuts that were enacted under Donald Trump. And it also gives us a fighting chance at combating climate change. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I fear sometimes we're going to end up with meager packages on both for political and economic reform that won't meet the fundamental challenges that America's facing. Let me ask you about one other thing. The House, I believe, is going to take a vote today on creating a commission to investigate the insurrection at the Capitol building on January 6th. Is that useful? That's the first thing that the Republicans filibustered in the Senate, but now the House is talking about going it alone. Is it still a worthwhile exercise, or should we just let the legal process work? The FBI and the Justice Department are investigating the legal process. Is there any reason to have another House investigation of the insurrection?
There absolutely is. We've already seen some things be uncovered by the House that we didn't know about before, and that's the whole benefit that you get from, and that's why Republicans are blocking it, frankly, because not only do you uncover things, you get investigatory powers, but we also have the issue of we need the House doing this because we have had some flags raised about the FBI's behavior. Some members of the FBI in the lead up to that attack, that domestic attack. And so there are many reasons why this has to happen in the House. It is absolutely, you would never see Republicans or anyone else justifying not doing an investigation, an independent investigation into 9/11. Well, 1/6 was 9/11. It was planned here domestically. That doesn't make it any less threatening. In fact, I would say, that 1/6, the whole plan was to overthrow our democracy.
Sarah, thanks very much for joining us today. Our guest in this half hour has been Sarah Jones, editor-in